Hi, scholars. Mr. Garcia over here, and we are ready for another music lesson. I have prepared a brand new Nearpod lesson on the bass, and it's really fun. We have like quiz activities and fun videos. So let's dive right in. Okay, expectations. Have a notebook next to your laptop so you can take notes, all right? It can be a notepad, it can be a notebook, or if you know how to use the notepad widget on the actual Nearpod, you can definitely use that. Do the student-paced Nearpod lesson along with my video. And I'm talking about this video that you're listening and seeing right now. If we are in live music time on Mondays, please turn on your camera as I will do the same. Have noflight.com piano chords assignment open in another tab. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that last expectation. So I have NoFlight in another tab. I use my Amani email address with Google. And then this is the last assignment that we did. 1, 5, 6, 4 chord progression. And I have it open. All right, so let's go back to the Nearpod. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds so you can do that. Are you with me? Okay, let's go back to the Nearpod. Objectives. By the end of this lesson, you will know and understand the function of the bass in a band, be able to identify the letter name notes of the bass clef lines and spaces, know and understand the musical terms tonic and root. All right, so let's take this time just to write in our notes um, like functions of the bass. You can write that in your notepad. Functions of the bass. We're going to talk about bass clef. And then we're going to talk about and learn about the tonic and root. All right, ready to move on. Now we're going to see a video about the role of the bass in music.
Study Bassers, let's talk about the role of the bass in music and in bands and what makes it so important and essential. Have you ever noticed that bands always have bass players? You'll see bands that don't have singers or guitar players or keyboard players or drummers, but there's always a bass. And in the rare case there's not a bass, someone fills in that bass part. So why is that? Why do we need the bass in music? Well, first, we need to look at the three basic areas of music to understand where the bass fits in. So we have melody, harmony, and rhythm.
All right, that's a great point to stop the
First,
video.
we have melody. Melody is the
and take notes of the three elements of music: melody, harmony, and rhythm. And notice that when I'm taking notes, I'm just writing down keywords that seem important. So right now I'm telling you to write that down because it's probably really important for music class in general. Okay, we're ready to go.
the part of the music that the singer sings or a guitar solo. It's usually the singable part of the music. The next area is harmony. Harmony is all about groups of notes played together at the same time. So harmony can be created by a single instrument like guitar or piano.
Does harmony sounds familiar? Yes, it does, because we covered harmony in the previous lesson.
Or harmony can be created by groups of instruments together like a symphony, or groups of singers like a choir or a barbershop quartet. The third basic area of music is rhythm. Rhythm is when all of these musical sounds occur in time. So the bass is so important in music because it sets the foundation for two of the three basic areas of music. It sets the foundation for the rhythm and for the harmony. Most people understand the rhythmic aspect of the bass. When you hear a bass line, you can feel the pulse, you can tap your foot to it. So the bass helps the listener feel the pulse of the music. It helps the listener feel the beat. Now the sound of the bass, it's rarely dreamy and soft. Instead, it's very focused and it's very punchy and percussive. So the bass really acts like a giant drum, but it's not an ordinary drum because it plays pitches, it plays notes.
All right, that's a great point. Let's write down the bass is kind of like a giant drum that plays pitches or notes. The bass is kind of like a giant drum that plays notes. You got it? Okay, let's move on.
And this is the really important part of the bass that most people don't understand. So when you hear multiple notes at the same time, your brain uses the lowest note that it hears as a reference point. So the bass note is helping your ear understand what all of the other notes should sound like together. I'll give you an example. If I play these three notes on the piano, I can make those same three notes sound different to you depending on which bass note I choose to play. So let's try it. So here's our piano notes. It sounds bright and happy. It's a little darker sounding. It sounds kind of mysterious. It sounds harsh. Again. Okay, so you can hear that it's the bass note that's helping your ear decide what all of those other notes should sound like together. It's a very, very powerful note. Now, when you combine the rhythmic role of the bass and the harmonic role of the bass together in a band, you'll really understand why the bass is so important, why it's so essential. In most bands, you're going to have drums, bass, a singer, guitar, or keyboards. And of all of those instruments, the drums are pure rhythm. The other instruments in the band, like guitar or piano, are going to play groups of notes together called chords. Now listen to the drums and guitar together with no bass. So So you can probably hear that there's a gap between the drums and the guitar. They're sort of disconnected. So here's the same track with bass. So how does bass connect all of it? Well, the percussive sound of the bass is connecting with the drums to form the rhythmic backbone of the band. But then the notes of the bass connect to the notes of the other instruments. So you're in this important place where you're marrying the pure rhythm of the drums to the notes of the other instruments.
Okay, so let's stop right there and just go through what he said. The bass is very percussive, percussion rhythm, right? So it sounds really rhythmic, but it can play the notes. So it links up, it connects with the chords. And we just learned by the same teacher that the bass notes actually make sense of the chords that we're hearing. So the bass note of each chord is really important. So we can just in general say the bass is kind of like a musical glue between the rhythm and the melody and harmony of a song, right? So the bass is kind of like the musical glue of a band. All right, you can write that down. The bass is kind of a musical glue. As I am writing down, you can write down yourself. All right. All right. Why am I even showing you the notes? Probably because they're really important and there might be questions on the quizzes in the future.
Now, beyond gluing the whole band together, the bass is still choosing what the overall harmony sounds like with its notes. So instead of sounding like one chord, I can make that same track sound like two chords alternating back and forth. So the rhythmic and harmonic power of the bass is what makes it so essential in music. The bass is helping set the pulse of the music, and it's anchoring the harmony. So it's tying all of the instruments and all of the music together. Now, if you're just starting to learn how to play the bass, you probably think that technique is the biggest part of learning how to play. And technique is important, but the really important stuff for bass players to study is rhythm and harmony.
All right. I'm going to stop it right there. And we're going to move on to the next slide, which is a quiz. All right. Refer to your notes and you probably will get this question right. What is the role of a bass in a band? A, it has the role of providing all the rhythm in a song. B, the bass helps to make sense of the chords the piano or guitar might be playing and serves as a musical glue between the drums and chord instruments. Or C, it has the role of being the melodic aspect of a song. Right. So you have to take the quiz by yourself in the student paced Nearpod lesson that I will share. Let's move on. Okay, the bass clef. Now, this is a picture that we've seen before when we were back in the building, and it's the phrases that help us memorize the lines and spaces of the bass clef. Let's go through the lines. Good boys do fine always. So let's make sense of this. This is going to help us memorize that the first line of a bass clef is the note G. The second line of a bass clef is the note B. The third line of a bass clef is the note D. The fourth line of a bass clef is the note F. The fifth line of a bass clef is the note A. Right? And now let's talk about the spaces. All cows eat grass is the trick phrase we're going to use to memorize the spaces of a bass clef. A, C, E, G. The first space in the bass clef is the note A. The second space in the bass clef is the note C. The third space in the bass clef is the note E. The fourth space in the bass clef is the note G. All right? So once again, in order to summarize, the lines of the bass clef are G, B, D, F, A. And we always remember because we say to ourselves, good boys do fine always. And the spaces of a bass clef are the notes A, C, E, G. And we always remember because we say to ourselves, all cows eat grass. All right? Let's move on. Okay, so this video is a song that you've probably heard before, and it's a version which serves to educate us in terms of musical theory. It's really important that you pay close attention to the lyrics of the song and the diagrams because it's going to actually summarize and also reteach the important aspects of the bass clef.
Because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass. Yeah, it's pretty clear. My notes don't sound high, but I can sing it. Down low, it ain't no lie. 'Cause I got that boom boom that all the tubas chase. All the low notes, all the low places. Yeah, I'm a bass player, big dot on my fourth line. You know that line is F because F is my sign. Looks like a backward C. Just add two dots and all my lines and spaces go from bottom to the top. You can remember my line goes by good boys to find a way.
All right, so this is really important. It's telling us once again the lines are G, B, D, F, A. We just went through that, and the song explains it again with the lyrics.
And for my spaces, say all cows eat grass, then they like to graze. All cows eat grass. And on the grand stuff, my notes can be found under middle C. And when you get to the bottom, the lowest line is G. Because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass. Hey, I'm bringing low notes back. Go ahead and tell the squeaky high notes back. If you play bass guitar or slide trombone, then read my F cause I go from G to A, from bottom to the top. You can remember my line notes like good boys to find a way. And for my spaces, say all cows eat grass, then I pray. All cows eat grass. And on the grand stuff, my notes can be found under middle C. And when you get to the bottom, the lowest line is G.
right. So I hope that you were paying attention to the video about the bass. Okay. So what note is the fourth line of the bass clef? You can use the clues that we learned before, the phrases, every good boy does fine. Excuse me, good boys do fine always, because we're in the bass clef, and all cows eat grass. What is the fourth line of the bass clef? All right. Time's up. We're going to move on. Okay. The tonic is the first note of a scale. This is really important. So let's write it down. The tonic is the first note of a scale. Okay. Remember, you're taking notes. And we have an example here. If you have the C major scale, we see that the first note is a C. So the tonic of the C major scale is C. Now let's talk about what is the root. The root is the first note of a chord. We have this chord right here, which is the C major chord. I see C, E, G, and C again. So the first note is a C. So the root of this chord is C. Now they are very similar, but not exactly the same. Once again, the tonic is the first note of a scale, and the root is the first note of a chord. Right. Okay, so now you have a matching game. You have to match the term with another term or a picture in order for them to make sense. Right. So you have this note. Is it what letter name note is it? The first line of a bass clef. You have a bass, the note G, first note of the scale. I'm not gonna actually tell you because I want you to do this exercise in the Nearpod lesson. All right. And now, this is a sort of feedback for myself as your music teacher. Did we review material that we have covered before in music class? Just let me know your thoughts. It's a yes or no. And then, did we also learn new material in this music lesson? All right. Okay. Now we're gonna move on to the chord progression. Since I already told you in the beginning of the video to have it ready in another tab, it should be super easy to just transition to the Note Flight 1564 chord progression. Okay, so we're going to add a bass. Of course we are. You're gonna click on the parts. You'll see this menu show up. You're gonna click on add part. And you're gonna type in bass. You're gonna click on electric bass. And then you're gonna click on OK. That's it. You may close that menu. Okay. Now I'm gonna click on the quarter rests because I'm gonna make the rhythm be a quarter note, right? Now, if I click on the note C on the second space 4 times. I've just created C, 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 right? Then I'm going to go to the second measure and click on G, which is the first line. We just reviewed the lines and spaces of the bass clef. All right, now we're going to go to A. All cows eat grass. Those are the spaces. So the first space is the A. And now the F is 1 space below the staff. Okay, now you can do that once again. Now to G. Now to A. Oh, made a mistake. I just clicked on the down arrow and fixed it. And then F. All right. And I want to end the song with the C on whole note. So I want to click on the whole note. So it should be a whole note. I'm going to fix it. All right. It's a C. There we go. Now another measure appeared. It seems to do that automatically, so I want to delete that. Wait, undo. I want to delete the last measure. Okay. All right, here we go. Now it should be perfect. I click play. All right, that's about it. That's the no flight assignment. So I want you to export the PDF and MP3 by clicking on this cloud icon. Then click on full score PDF. And then click continue. Then click on MP3 audio. Then click continue. And you're going to submit this no flight assignment into the Google Classroom assignment. All right. So to recap, you have to take the Nearpod lesson on the bass, do all the little quizzes and the matching pairs and whatnot, and then go to No Flight and do this really simple bass rhythm on the 1, 5, 6, 4 chord progression, and then submit this, even with the piano and the bass, both things. Okay, I want to see you add the bass to this assignment. Okay, and you already know, if you have any question, you can email me or shoot me a Google Classroom message. All right, so I'll see you in Monday live music time. Take care.